Welcome to the Internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, quote, the S-line done broke again, Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we return to beautiful San Francisco, California, and how its various streetcar lines became a modern light rail system. All this after the news.
Portland streetcar riders, you're getting new trains. PDX has just received a set of 3 brand new Liberty NXT streetcars as part of a $11.3 million order to expand and modernize the fleet. The streetcars are the first Portland streetcars from Liberty Streetcar and will be used to improve reliability and frequencies network-wide, which have suffered somewhat since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sad we missed them.
So how many more streetcars are they getting in this order out after the initial 3?
That would be it.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, streetcars
Cool.
are expensive, apparently. So
Cool. I guess they're fancy and special. Also, I've never heard of Liberty Streetcar. Is that a U.S.-based manufacturer?
They are the premier U.S.-based manufacturer of streetcar equipment.
I guess I wouldn't know that, being from Utah, where we only have light rail vehicles masquerading as streetcars.
Yeah, good old S70 called a streetcar.
I thought the streetcars were fine when I went.
Yeah.
In Portland?
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with them.
Well, the trouble is that the A and B loops, which go over to the east side of the Willamette River, have been running at like somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes just because they don't have enough streetcars to run them at the frequency they're supposed to run at.
Did they not buy it? Did they not buy enough when they built the thing?
Well, they broke.
Oh.
Things break sometimes.
I forgot about that.
So, there you go. This has been the news, abbreviated version.
Last time on the Red Line Podcast.
Last week, we left Muni celebrating its 50th birthday in 1962, exactly 2 weeks before voters approved a bond measure to establish the Bay Area Rapid Transportation District, more commonly known as BART.
Spooky.
Say the line, Bart.
Simpson.
That would be train.
Choo-choo.
Or it could be, let's see, yellow, orange, red, green, or blue.
Weird Transbay tube squealing noises.
Yeah, when that thing turns, it's kind of scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah, apparently.
In the Transbay tube.
Apparently it used to be significantly worse.
That's good.
Does it bang around, or...?
It kind of does a little bit.
It does a bit of everything.
I see. A bit of everything's okay.
It also used to be way worse than in excess of 100 decibels in the cabin.
100 decibels?
In excess of.
Yeah, but the Fleet of the Future cars helped that. Now it's only 98 decibels.
Well, also they redid a whole bunch of track work, and that brought it down a lot. Maintenance be like.
Wow.
Who does maintenance anyways?
No one.
Not
Except maybe the
kids.
MTA who does maintenance 24/7.
Literally. No, I was watching a video from at Rice Rust Belt, from St. Louis, of him riding the Metrolink, and I noticed their driver, he was videoing out the front of the train,
Yeah.
I noticed the driver going, swaying side to side like they do on our trains when they're going, so I figured that their track maintenance may be in a similar state to ours. Which is not a compliment.
Hey, I saw one of our track maintenance machines on a siding in Sandy. It's still there the following week.
Well, that track machine was previously at Murray Central, so that means that it has been moved in the past
That
several
doesn't mean
months.
they've
At
used
least
it.
it's on a siding.
Yeah, not just on the track. It was Blue Line operations delayed due to single tracking to avoid a maintenance machine that was mistakenly left on the east track.
After not being used.
Yes. We're just going to let it sit there. We don't have anywhere else to put it.
It's got the pretty Stacy and Whitbeck logo on it and everything.
That's great. We should fire them and hire someone who actually does it.
Why don't they do it? Do we not pay them?
I don't know, but they don't. No, that's why our track sucks.
Isn't UDOT in charge of track maintenance then?
No, they're in
just
charge of
construction.
building things now.
Which they don't anyway, so...
Which they're...
They're going to spend a crap ton of money on doing a bad job.
And because, look, I don't know why you would take capital projects from UTA, because UTA has a very long history of before-time, under-budget projects. Every single major UTA project, with, 0 exceptions, has been before time and under budget.
And overall, absolute costs completely reasonable. Even our like $50 million a mile frontline stuff. Completely reasonable.
Yeah, but we got to give it to UDOT because reasons.
Because secretly we want to cripple UTA.
Valid reason.
That's my cynical reason for it.
Well, they are the Utah Department of Transportation, so they should be.
Okay, UDOT is great at doing roads and bridges. They've
They're
got
doing a nice job on the 13th East Bridge. I'll say that.
They're like actual team that actually does on the ground construction work, like replacing a bridge or repaving a road. They do great at that. Now, which projects they choose to apply that expertise to is a complete shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna build, the West Davis Freeway now.
But like, if you look at like the Canyon roads or whatever, they're good at maintaining pavement. The pavement is smooth and well maintained.
In places, I'll give you that.
Some places they are good at maintaining roads.
They're good, yeah. I guess they do good on their roads. Generally,
their technical skills and their on the ground like actual construction.
Have they ever built a train?
No.
Interesting. Then we should definitely give them control of that.
Sure, this definitely won't be a big money pit.
No.
Once they get it down, and if they
get it down, UTA will be
UTA already
canceled.
got it down for the 13 years that they built things before they stopped.
Stopping is really good.
Anyway, so a lot had changed in the first 50 years of Muni's history. First, San Francisco was no longer the dominant population center in the Bay Area. From nearly 60% of the population in 1912, San Francisco was down to just a quarter by 1960. Suburbanization was in full swing, and there were now massive commuter populations driving into San Francisco and downtown Oakland every day for work. The federal government was pouring billions upon billions of dollars into new freeways and expanding old ones, but it wasn't enough.
Never is.
Yeah.
What's the old thing? Induced demand.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's in the
Or
trademark.
latent demand.
Oh yeah.
or freedom. Freedom
what's
demand.
What's the thing that our professor likes to call it? Something travel.
Ooh.
It was on the midterm.
Oh, I haven't taken it yet.
Oh, well, you're getting hints now. Something travel, latent, I don't know. Anyway, the point is, more people are driving into San Francisco because the key system is gone and Caltrain is, not a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, in San Francisco itself, there are just a bazillion people commuting by car from the residential western districts of the city, which are the Sunset and the Richmond districts, to the east, where all the jobs are, right? So you got all these people driving across the bay and up the peninsula and over the Golden Gate Bridge into the city for work. And then you got all these people who actually live in the city in kind of the, western bougie sections where people live, driving from there into the city. So what you end up with is massive traffic jams all the time.
And driving is terrible for everyone, and you might be better off walking or taking your horse.
Basically.
Yeah, that's shocking. That
or your safety bicycle.
Safety bicycle.
That's what they called them when they were replacing the penny farthings with regular bicycles. They were
the
safety
penny farthings
bicycles.
weren't very safe.
I
You
guess
fall over the front.
Yeah, that is true.
And die.
Yeah.
So something more was needed. Modern, rapid transportation that could get people out of cars.
A double-decker freeway.
Yeah,
Yes.
double-decker
The
freeway.
Embarcadero Freeway, of course, that will solve traffic.
Mm-hmm. And it did.
Yeah, before it fell over. They could get people out of cars and onto trains. Thus, BART was born and became...
Simpson.
Yes, say the line.
Bart Simpson was born.
Bart Simpson was born.
Yeah.
He's like, in the opening scenes, they always have Bart writing something on the right board. They're like, just one more lane, just one more lane, just one more lane, just one more lane, just one more. Funny.
Bart's history will be a 2-episode pair coming soon, but there are a few important notes to touch on before we move to Muni's activity during the 60s. First, Marin...
Nope, Marin County. People will yell at you about that, apparently.
Wow, you called me, didn't you?
Yeah.
First,
Marin
County was excluded from the BART D.
Bay Area Rapid Transportation District.
Yeah, the BART after the Contra Costa County pulled out and concerns were raised about putting BART on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, so this is kind of like an interesting thing.
Why didn't they want BART?
It turns out that the Golden Gate Bridge, and this may surprise you, is kind of fucking old.
Really?
No
Yeah,
way.
True
I
fact.
thought it was built recently.
So it was built in the 30s, and like a lot of highway bridges from the 30s, it was designed for cars from the 30s.
Which were small and light, and there weren't as many.
And, like no like 20 billion axle pickup trucks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like Model Ts.
Yeah, it was like basically Model Ts.
And maybe like a horse-drawn
There
flatbed.
probably may have been several horse-drawn flatbeds over there
Probably.
especially
Actually.
during the war.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not designed for that, right? So if there were still Model Ts on it, you could probably have put BART on the bridge, but there were concerns that with modern cars
And semis and buses and all that.
you wouldn't be able to like actually carry BART without just breaking the whole thing.
Weight limit.
That's a valid concern.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unless you were to just have BART.
Yeah, but that's not gonna fly.
And maybe some like heavily restricted 2 lanes for vehicle traffic.
It's the symbol of our country, of our prosperity.
'Cause I'm
You
proud
can't get rid of
to
cars,
be
can
an
you?
American.
So why didn't they just build a tube on the Bay Bridge, on the Golden Gate Bridge side?
We're gonna get to this, but the Transbay Tube was like a good third of the entirety of BART cost.
It also is BART.
Yes, but like unlike the
Having
current,
a second extra one to a less important place would not be such a
like
good value
especially back
proposition.
then, Marin County was not particularly like populous.
So they could have justified putting it on the existing bridge, not so much in a new tube.
Right, because the current tube carries everything except one.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a piece of infrastructure you can't do without, I guess, is what the issue is.
It's a shame, though. It would be cool having it run over the Golden
Yeah, and then
Gate.
maybe we'd have
Very cyberpunk.
maybe we would have had like some 70s BART in Marin County instead of the flippin' smart train.
We run the smart train over the Golden Gate Bridge. Smart train, Geary Boulevard subway. I'm very into this now. And then you run it onto the Central subway, where it then turns off and goes onto.
Wait a second. You could still have cars and the smart train on the Golden Gate Bridge. You just have to have all the cars and trucks clear off once every 1.5 hours when the smart train comes through.
Better plan: street running Muni trains on the Golden Gate Bridge.
That share lanes with car traffic.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
And they're not like noticeably heavier than a semi truck, right? So I see no problems.
It would be cheap.
Suspended monorail.
Huh.
Hanging off the
Monorail.
hanging off the bottom.
Monorail.
Definitely wouldn't screw with clearance.
Yeah.
Who cares about clearance?
So, but anyway, the whole point of this was that it deprives San Francisco of like an anticipated and very important rapid transit line on Geary Boulevard, which still does not exist today, unsurprisingly.
Because if they'd put BART over the bridge, it would have gone under Geary,
It would have gone under Geary right into the Richmond district and then over the bridge.
which
And
would have
now-
been nice.
And now there's just the 38R. And so
They don't
Richmond
even
has like the lowest level of
they don't even
transit
currently have a Muni Metro line there, even though they totally should. My goodness, this chair's.
Yeah, it was the last one to be torn out. It was almost saved, I believe.
I should have kept that one instead of doing the however much they poured into BRT lanes on there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know the reason that the Muni lines that survived did survive, and that's because of the tunnels.
Yeah.
And there was no tunnel for Geary, so
Somebody should have just built a wall and put a train-sized hole in it.
yeah. Just no cars through the hole.
Sorry, they don't fit. We talked about the Transbay Tube. How about the Market Street subway?
So the centerpiece of BART's new system of rapid transit lines was the Transbay Tube and the Market Street subway that it fed into. During high ridership years, nearly half of all of BART's riders entered and exited through the 4 stations on Market Street: Embarcadero, Montgomery Street, Powell Street, and Civic Center, now known as Civic Center / UN Plaza.
Gee, it's almost as if the system was specifically designed to discharge
To put people
to discharge suburban commuters into 4 separate stations. You don't like overcapacity one station, so it's convenient for everyone.
Literally, each of those stations had like 50,000 deembarkations and embarkations
I think
per
this
day.
is why there's 4 stations, not as much convenience as raw capacity.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And then also the downtown Oakland stations each had like 20,000 deembarkations and embarkations. So
That's a very
It
valuable
worked.
service, going under the bay at like 70 miles an hour, 80 if recovering from a delay.
Yeah, and it would be much faster than driving almost every single time.
Not almost.
No, it's just gonna be-
The BART goes 70, 80 if recovering from a delay, and the cars are not allowed to go that fast.
yeah, and the Bay Bridge is just never going to be that uncongested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true.
So
So always faster.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
The only thing that matters for time is your local connection on the Oakland side.
Womp, 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 womp.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, furthermore, the double-decker subway would, after the failure of the Geary-Marin line, have a set of tracks dedicated to Muni streetcars, which threw Muni leaders into paroxysms of joy.
Yeah, when they built this, instead of building one subway, they were smart and they built 2 subways on top of each other.
Interesting.
Genius.
Yeah, they still haven't figured out like all the fare gates for transferring between the subways, so it's kind of jank, but
Hey, that's
Yeah.
fine.
it's got 2 subways.
That's true.
Can't complain.
BART on the bottom, Muni on top.
And sort of the reason that BART wanted to put Muni in the subway in the
It's
first
because
place.
they wanted extra tracks to eventually expand onto.
Well, that, but the main reason was political, right? Because San Francisco has approximately 7 BART stations inside of it, but San Francisco County still had to pay, its, like, third of the entire cost of BART. So, like, all
Even
these
the-
San Franciscan people are like, hey, gee whiz, why are we paying for, like, a third of it when we're going to get 7 stations and everyone else is going to get $1 billion?
Because BART mostly serves the commuting needs of everyone
East
else
Bay, yeah.
into San Francisco.
Right, and so they're like, oh, well, we don't want to pay for that. And then Bart's like, haha, time for me to be a big brain Chad.
What if we built you a subway
What
for
if-
your transportation?
Exactly. And then everyone's like, hooray, my cute PCC streetcar gets to go underground
And
now.
also still above ground at the same time.
Yes.
Best of both worlds.
Well, maybe the worst of both worlds, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And then they built the Muni platforms extra long so they could put BART trains in them eventually. Once in BART's vision, Muni was rendered obsolete by BART being everywhere all the time.
Actually, the platforms are that long for a different reason.
Oh, why are they so long?
Because the thing we're getting into next. So the design of the subway was a real big deal because it had been desired by transportation planners in San Francisco nearly since Muni's inception. The earliest plans for such a subway were laid out in 1918, when the man who designed the Twin Peaks Tunnel laid it out in such a way that it would be compatible with a future subway on Market Street.
Based.
The early serious plans for such a subway were developed in the 1930s with 2 separate proposals. One was for a single-level quad-track subway, mimicking the layout on Market Street. So there would be the 2 inner tracks would be for the Market Street Railroad, and the 2 outer tracks would be for Muni.
That sounds cool. Seems a bit wide for available space.
Yeah, but it was going to be a streetcar subway
Okay.
instead of like a.
Then streetcar go skinny.
Yes, they can be a little bit skinnier, so it probably would have worked. The other was for a 2-line system, one of which would run part of the way down Geary Boulevard and part of the route of the Central Subway today, and the other on Market Street. There was also, of course, because it was the 1950s, a proposal to put a monorail above Market Street. And then for a while after they were going to be like, hey, Muni, you can have some of the track in here, Muni was like, we should put a monorail in there.
Oh,
What's with
no.
monorails and the West Coast?
Westoids just
Monorail.
like monorails, I guess.
They're cool,
I
flashy,
say as
and
a
modern.
Westoid.
That's so weird.
I agree.
Is that around the same time as the Seattle World's Fair?
Bit earlier, I think.
Okay.
So,
Apparently-
okay, so it kind of was monorail time then.
yeah. it was.
Apparently, we have a different idea of cool, flashy, and modern than other places.
I suppose. So then, getting into why the tracks are the length that they are, Kyle, in 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Urban Mass Transportation Administration into existence, bringing absolute, Texas-sized truckloads of new funding for transit projects with it.
What a good guy. What a legend.
Lyndon B. Johnson is the best president since the last Democrat who was in office before
Since
him.
sliced bread.
Well, that's not true. The last Democratic president who was in president before the guy he replaced after he got shot, who was FDR.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I love a bit of FDR.
Oh, I guess Truman.
Yeah.
Nah, never. So, before all the replacements, the last guy. Muni planned to take full advantage of this, envisioning the Market Street subway as a starter for an entire local rapid transportation system for the city of San Francisco.
Geary
And
Boulevard
that's why the
subway
platforms are long.
Because they wanted to build
Because
an
they were
actual...
going to build like 6-car light rail subway instead of
Cool.
the like 2 cars that they currently run in there, and it's kind of funny.
And now we'd spent like $20 billion on the central subway, and that's all we got.
Excuse me, it was only $1 billion a mile
Only $1 billion.
$1 billion a mile.
And this
for a
is
light rail subway,
and this is why we don't have more light rail subway.
which runs onto the street after about 1.5 miles.
You know, maybe
Sounds
if
like
if light rail subway cost $200 billion a mile instead of 1,000 million, we'd have 5 times as much of it.
Oh, and it could go to Fisherman's Wharf like it's supposed to,
Yeah.
instead of just Chinatown.
One stop into Chinatown.
Yeah, it was supposed the phase 3 of the T3rd, which is the one that runs in it, right? Because the original, we'll get into that later.
Phasing your projects because they're so obscenely over budget that you'll never be able to afford them.
Yes. So sensing a theme here, the system Muni planners envisioned would have put a subway on Geary Boulevard, feeding into the Market Street subway near Montgomery Street Station. There would have been a line to the Sunset District, following part of the route of the present N Judah, and a line to the south, paralleling the modern M Ocean View.
Yeah, I do like that map.
Yeah, so it would have been, kind of a much more comprehensive system than exists today for rapid transportation. This would have gotten rid of all the streetcars, which is probably one of the reasons that the bond measure, which would have created it, failed, because people, you have a streetcar in your neighborhood. You like having a streetcar in your neighborhood generally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all underground, right?
Yeah, this would have been, I believe, all subway. So,
Wow.
Modern.
that's like maybe 20 miles of subway, so that's a pretty, substantial system.
If you drew this up today, the person trip scale would be like blown out of the water.
Yes, I imagine that if this had been built, Muni Metro would probably, 250,000 riders a day instead of its pre-pandemic, like 120. Like, it was still the most ridden light rail system in the country, but, it is a light rail system and therefore inherently limited and yada, yada, yada. So,
Yeah. I like how much ambition they used to have.
I know, like, we just don't.
Well, now they have ambition, but only like a couple $1 billion of ambition, or however much they spend on the central subway. They spend it all on the central
That's
subway.
because of Ronald Reagan.
Great.
Because he killed the Urban Mass Transportation Administration, which we were just talking about, right? Which was the people who were just giving oodles of federal money, like, 90% matching your light rail project or whatever. So,
The interstate highway system, but fully grade separated metros.
and only lasted for like 10 years. So,
Maybe we should have kept one of these things and axed
gotten rid
the
of the other one.
Gotten rid of Reagan.
Reagan, fun fact of the day, he's still dead.
That is a
And
fun
provides
fact.
a gender-neutral restroom for all Americans.
Yay.
God bless the USA. Yeah, so even at the time, so kind of the enduring issue with the Muni Metro, even though they've solved their rolling stock issues, they've finally solved their signaling issues, and they have like a reliable service in the subway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that you have all these street running lines feeding into a grade-separated subway with like 2-minute headways.
So scheduling just goes out the window.
Yes, it became very problematic, and everyone knew this. So they're like, hey, we should do a fully grade-separated rapid transit on our system instead of just feeding all 5 of our streetcar lines into a subway. Because this sort of system had already existed at the time, right? Boston's Green Line was already a thing, and so was Philadelphia's trolley tunnel. So, they knew. And then, to build this thing, they put a $100 million bond measure on the ballot in 1966 that would have paid for a number of necessary improvements to buses, cable cars, and rolling stock. But bizarrely, the measure to build the actual Muni Metro, was bundled with this bond measure.
So the whole thing failed.
Yeah, and the thing that they attached to it would have just made them eligible for Urban Mass Transportation Administration funding. They probably might have gotten a full fund for the thing.
Whew. Nice.
Just the entire thing built by the feds.
Nice.
Jeez.
I know, I wish, right? But then it failed, right? And you'll never guess what the ratio of votes to make it fail were.
51 to 49.
Guess?
Well, what's it to pass?
Half.
Half?
So, California. Let's talk about California and how stupid it is for a second. A lot of types of ballot measures in California, you have to get 60% of the vote.
Okay.
So, Muni Metro...
Let me guess, 59-41.
58-42. So, a landslide majority of San Franciscans supported the system, but it didn't get built because California is special.
Okay, this is a funding measure that I don't see why that can't be a half and half. I feel like a shoot everyone measure could be 60%. This was just funding.
Well, and the funny thing is, this kept happening to Muni. Ever since Muni's founding, they had tried to do bond measures and they tried to get more funding, they tried to get dedicated funding sources. Every time this would happen, 58-42, 59-41, 57-43. Every single time, everybody's yay, we should fund Muni, but they can't get 60%, so Muni is perpetually, in shambles.
Maybe the base of people who benefit greatly from Muni is 58% of people who are eligible to vote for it.
But why would people be so opposed to it if it's...
They're not so opposed. It's 58%.
Well, there were legitimate opposition because people didn't want their streetcars ripped out.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
but if you get something significantly better...
Well, some
but
people
it wouldn't have been in your neighborhood.
Some people
the
wouldn't
J
have
Church wouldn't exist. A third of the N Judah would be gone.
Yeah, so instead of going all the way to Ocean Beach on the N Judah and then feeding into a tunnel,
yeah, it would have just gone to
been
19th,
truncated.
which 19th and Judah.
So some people are losing out on nice service.
Yeah.
Well, as someone who doesn't know the place, I guess that's fair. I can't judge too much.
I mean, look, having, half of a subway would be much better than having the N Judah, in my opinion. Having ridden the N Judah all the way to Ocean Beach.
Yeah.
And back. So...
Is this law still in place?
Yes.
The 60%?
Yes. California was liberalism. That's good.
Let's do all the bad
take it too
parts.
far and do all the bad parts.
And now it's an overregulated hellhole.
Well,
Aye.
a little bit.
An overregulated mess.
Yes, not a hellhole. California is,
There's a reason their housing is very expensive.
It is the good place in some ways and the bad place in other. It's mostly the good place, though.
Have they tried passing a measure to remove the measure and been screwed over by the same measure?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, actually?
I believe several times now, actually, people have tried to overturn this stupid 60% thing and ended up, getting, 58, 42 or something.
And on the other hand, under the system, we passed, Proposition 65.
Yeah. Well, California is fun because there will be, murder all homeless people, 62-40, or 62-38, and save Muni Metro 59.9, 41.
I feel like this is
or 40.1.
based off of real-world evidence, I feel like the solution to stupid ballot measures getting passed is not just raising the threshold to 60%, because that clearly hasn't been working.
Gosh.
So, Muni Metro is dead. Long live Muni Metro.
Yeah, maybe we'll get it someday at the low cost of $30 billion in 50 years worth of work.
Maybe.
And then
Maybe.
over budget.
Well, then it goes over budget to
And over time,
$50.5 billion.
Yeah.
And it only costs $3 billion per mile.
That might be cheap one.
Well, but then they build the 70th phase in
Look,
2113.
I hate to break this to you, Muni, but the T3rd is never going to get any ridership until you finish the part of the central subway that would make it useful, i.e., taking it to its logical extent on the North Beach.
Gee whiz, maybe it only currently serves as a Caltrain connector, and that's
It doesn't even, though.
Isn't it supposed to? Because it goes
I
to
think
Caltrain?
the idea was that it was supposed to connect Caltrain to downtown
But
San
then you have to
Francisco.
take the stupid long walking transfer.
But A, that already existed. The N-Judah takes you straight from Caltrain to the Market Street subway.
Hey, wait, and this one doesn't even go to the Market Street subway, which is probably
Well,
why
it
nobody...
connects with the Market Street subway.
It doesn't go in the Market Street subway.
No, but
So if you want to
goes
go to
under
if
it.
you want to go to any of the other stations without a stupid walking transfer, then
yeah. Anyway, Central Subway is a little bit of an issue project, but it needs to be finished before it becomes useful. Otherwise, it is going to continue underperforming ridership expectations like it is right now.
maybe because it's like 3 feet long.
I take it people also don't want to fund it because they see it not being as useful
It
as
should
it
have
could
been
be.
finished for the
Well,
original for the amount they spent on this
It
part.
probably should have been like the full length up to North Beach with the 1.6 billion.
If they'd spent 1.6 billion, done the actual whole thing instead of like 3 feet of it,
Mm-hmm.
then
Also-
it probably would have been a pretty alright
Also,
project.
maybe if they ran higher frequency through it,
10
the
minutes.
T3rd is the only Muni line that does not interline. You can run as much frequency as you like on it within, street running
It's
And
long too.
limits.
And you said
it's
10
important.
minutes?
10 minutes. It currently runs every 10 minutes through a $1.6 billion subway.
They should do like at 2.5 minutes.
Like 5 minutes, for God's sake, guys. Getting back to where we were before we went on a massive tangent about the Central Subway, ground was broken on the Market Street subway in 1967, beginning the years-long process of getting BART and Muni trains underground and underway.
Underground, ha ha ha.
Good.
Also
Yes.
underway, ha ha ha.
That was
ha.
yes, that
'Cause
was
it goes under
quite
the
a-
way.
Very clever, very clever.
Thank you. That was like some Shakespeare.
This is what
shit.
people pay us for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you to our patrons. So construction progressed quickly, but too slowly for comfort. So many businesses on Market Street began to shutter because there was no foot traffic or transit traffic.
What, they dug up so much that they couldn't even have like a pissy sidewalk on the side?
Like,
big subway.
this was a project because if you remember from the stations we're in, there are 3 levels. There's the concourse level, then there's the Muni level, and then there's the BART level under that.
I'm surprised they didn't manage to like screw up any building foundations and have like a skyscraper fall into their hole.
Actually,
Oh,
no,
great.
that's not to say that there was one, but you said the word skyscraper and that triggered like a core memory for me. There weren't really any skyscrapers in San Francisco until they started building BART, and then suddenly there were dozens.
Financial district go burr.
Literally. Like, there were, like, between the start of BART being built and the end of BART being built, like, there was a whole panic in San Francisco about Manhattanization because they were putting up so many skyscrapers.
I would not be personally worried about Manhattanization.
Well, you gotta put
Well-
in some regulations so sunlight reaches the streets.
But the character of my neighborhood.
Okay.
That was very dismissive, okay?
Okay, boomer.
They also decided to add Embarcadero, which the original first stop was just going to be Montgomery Street.
But they decided to put one as close to the end of the tube as they could.
Yeah, and because Muni needed a place to turn around.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So there was going to be a turning loop, if you would believe it.
Oh my goodness, what year is that?
That sounds so
They were going to put
expensive.
PCCs in there.
Oh.
Yeah, it was going to be very expensive. And then BART engineers were also starting to put the pressure on Muni around like 1968 to tell them what type of rolling stock they would run with the new tunnel, because Muni didn't know yet.
And BART needed to know to build the tunnel.
Yes, and as we said, Muni had originally planned to just run the PCCs in the tunnel, but after a turning loop at Embarcadero was ruled out in 1968 due to rising costs, as Alex said, they were forced to seek out new rolling stock capable of double-ended operation.
Whoa, so modern.
I
A
know.
train that goes both ways.
Then, problem. There had been no light rail vehicles produced in the United States since 1952, when the final Muni PCC streetcar rolled out of the St. Louis Streetcar Company shops.
Great, because
Ooh.
every city in the U.S. was busy just ripping up any train.
Literally, it had been like almost 20 years since anyone had built a streetcar in this country.
I didn't think about that.
That sounds like
Okay.
a pure procurement problem.
It was a real, it really was.
If you wonder why we have all the Made in America laws we have today with varying results, this is a major reason why.
We're going to learn about why Made in America is bad here in a second.
Cool.
Muni tried originally to create their own model, but that turned out to be uneconomical and a stupid idea.
Yep,
Understandable.
that makes sense.
But then there was...
Boeing?
So you're giving spoilers. So we're going to go to the East Coast for a second. So Boston's Green Line, which is in many ways a similar system, was undergoing modernization at the same time, leading the Urban Mass Transportation Administration to suggest that Muni go in with them on a wholly new product, the Boeing Vertol, which was a helicopter company. Standard light rail vehicle. Both
What,
agencies...
did they put two 2x4s on some wheels?
No, they put a helicopter on some wheels.
Oh, great.
Both agencies would order at the same time to bring down costs. And let's look up a picture and see if we can find a free domain picture of these things, because they look weird.
I'm looking now, and they look so narrow.
This is...
Well,
so
helicopters are narrow.
This is a Boeing LRV. Pretty special looking, right?
It looks mostly like an LRV. I'm sure the mechanics were garbage.
Oh, are we gonna get into that? Yeah. So this did come with some serious downsides. The noses had to be tapered to fit in Boston's much older subway, meaning that the front and back doors on each car had to be stairs only and were useless in the Metro section. So you could only board in the middle doors when the trains were in the Muni Metro.
Gee,
Oh my-
and that's definitely not also the spot with the highest per stop boarding.
Right. And then also they were just the most piece of shit things that anyone has ever bought in history. Like, Boston got the first delivery of these, right? And they started breaking so fast that as the new ones were delivered to them, they just couldn't keep up the replacement of the ones that were breaking.
Really?
And they had to just take 20 out of service ones and cannibalize them for parts because Boeing couldn't produce parts fast enough to keep them
They
maintained.
kept breaking so fast.
Because they kept breaking so fast.
It's almost like this company has no idea how to build a train.
Because it was a helicopter company.
Oh my gosh.
So
They would have been better off going with a boxcar company or something that didn't know anything about electricity but sure could make something that rolls.
yes. Yes. So they were very bad, and Buy America strikes for the first time because they wanted to buy
Anything.
Breda LRVs, basically the same ones that the first modern light rail line in the United States, the San Diego Trolley, used, but with their special stairs that go up and down. They would have just added those
Yeah.
aftermarket. They wanted to buy those, but then Richard Nixon was like, haha, you can't use Urban Mass Transportation Administration funds to buy foreign rolling stock. You have to buy America.
Ooh.
No company in
Republicans
America.
ruin everything as usual.
Why would that ever be a good idea?
No company in
'Cause-
America. And if we had a strong domestic manufacturing sector at the time, maybe it would have been a mildly okay
Most of those
idea.
San Diego trolleys are still in operation today.
Gee
In
whiz.
Argentina, because they sold them after 40 years in San Diego to an Argentinian
And
light
they
rail
still
line.
work.
The
They
the
still
Boeing
work.
ones?
No.
No.
No. Oh.
The
The
Breda
ones they
ones,
bought
they're German.
overseas.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
So Muni might still have the same rolling stock it had in the early days if...
Okay, maybe Buy America should have just been like Buy NATO or something.
Yeah! Like, this is our allied economy. We're in the freaking Cold War. You don't want to boost the West German economy? What's wrong with you? Do you hate freedom? So anyway, those were bad.
Was Boeing the only company trying to make LRVs? Okay.
Nobody else wanted to get into it because everyone thought that urban mass transportation was dead.
Which would be a
Fair.
fair assumption.
Fair.
Yeah.
This is true at the time.
Gosh.
So,
Because, cars solve everything.
the subway
At the time.
itself, the Market Street subway,
It is amazing.
was completed
And
in
awesome.
1975.
Cool.
But delays with the Boeing Vertol cars pushed the opening date for Muni trains in the Muni Metro until 1980.
They should...
5 years?
They had an empty subway for 5 years. Like, there were BART trains running in it and everything, going, like, you know, all over the place. You couldn't get a Muni train. They were still on the surface.
That's unbelievable.
Dude, these days trains are usually like the last of anybody's worries. It's just like, oh, does it look good? Oh, are the stairs in the right spot? Oh, did you have
Can the
Wi-Fi?
stairs go up and down if you're Muni Metro?
See,
Yeah. Oh, what's the sheeting layout? And let's just stick it on the tracks and it goes.
Why wouldn't they just go and buy, like, underground vehicles from England?
They can't. It's
Can't.
not America.
They can't.
That
They have to buy
That's just
America.
crazy to me.
Screw
That,
our
that,
ally.
There
that
were
makes
no-
no sense.
There were no light rail production. There was no light rail vehicle production, and a light rail vehicle is a light rail vehicle, whether it's a light rail subway or on the surface.
So they obviously didn't have any intention of having anything good happen.
Well,
No, they did. They
Muni
just-
tried their
Well, no,
damnedest.
Muni, but I mean
The
because of
presidents.
Nixon.
No, Nixon wanted to kneecap the UMTA.
Yeah.
Because, like, all of these metros that they had built had been so far a great success.
Oh, they were
and
too good.
Republicans hate public transportation, as
Oil
we
lobby.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most Republicans hate public transportation, I should say.
Being pro-oil lobby.
They are... Their ideology lends itself to being pro-car, right?
Mhm.
Because they're conservatives and they're individualists, which is an ideology that lends itself to being pro-car.
Apparently.
I guess you would think conservatives are all about community and, like, you know,
The family.
family
Yeah.
having, like,
You could
resilient
fit a lot
and
more family.
Strong
economic-
communities.
economically sustainable, like, development and stuff, and
Strong downtown.
strong fiscal government. Right.
Yeah.
You would think they would be for all these things, but, like, you know, like everyone, they're complicated and their ideology isn't consistent.
And also the oil lobby.
And,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, but
And
the
the
oil
auto
lobby
lobby.
owns Democrats as well, let's be clear.
Okay, cool, but at least Democrats throw funding towards, like, vaguely
That is
green
true.
things.
So anyway, Republicans on the whole don't like public transportation very much.
For whatever reason, valid or otherwise.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
In my opinion, otherwise, I'm sure I've had productive conversations with Republicans about public transportation. But yeah, so Richard Nixon wanted it to fail, and so he did bad things. Just like he, you know, purposefully introduced crack into black communities.
Racism.
What good policy.
Racism,
Wow.
another reason to hate public transport, because it's affordable.
And there are black people on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they could afford it.
Yeah, I think a nickname that MARTA quickly gained after it opened, right, was moving Africans rapidly through Atlanta. Was like a nickname that local press gave it if you can sort of figure out the attitude that the average conservative had towards public transportation at the time.
Yeah.
So,
It's reminding me of, like, New York's low bridges that don't fit buses.
yes. So, yeah. And while all this crap was going on, Muni was doing all sorts of crazy gymnastics going to keep service going. So, Market Street is still the main streetcar corridor, right? And you have all of these lines running over. You have, like, you know, 30, 40 streetcars an hour.
Once they finished building the subway, they put all the surface tracks back.
No,
they-
that's later.
Oh, okay.
While they're building the subway on Market Street,
Where'd they put
they
the streetcar?
maintained streetcars on Market Street.
Not on adjacent
Trestles.
What?
They
built
built
it over
trestles over the pits that they were digging to build the subway, and they curved around. It was called the Muni roller coaster for like
Wow.
5 years when they would just...
No way.
And
Yeah.
we live in 2023, and we as a society have no ambition. None.
to
Zero,
keep-
squat, nada. They had it sorted in the 70s. Can we go back?
Hold on, I have a picture here somewhere that's really good.
Also, safety's overrated.
That's absurd. Like,
These are all really
Well,
that is such a big commitment.
Is it
I
though?
know.
Because have you seen like highway widening and highway reconstruction logistics? They go to extreme
I gotta
efforts
find the source.
to
Hold
keep
on.
like 2/3 of the thing open at all times. So this is that sort of same. It has to stay open no matter the cost philosophy.
Yeah, we
of,
gotta
like,
keep the
trains.
streetcars running. The streetcars must run.
It's crazy in terms of public transit.
Yeah,
These days.
It's crazy
It's
that
insane to picture, but you are right
Yeah.
about...
these days
Yeah.
it's completely normal. We do it on every roads project
There's a
ever.
great picture
but
of it here.
unheard of for train construction. We're just like, oh, it's closed for the weekend. Good luck.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, we're not even gonna dig a subway.
Where
Good
is
luck.
I have to see a picture of this.
Okay, hold on, I got one.
I will also add,
No, it's here
less
somewhere.
amusingly, that they have
This.
Oh my god.
Like, look at that track work that they did. They built a little bridge over the steel girders on the top of the thing to maintain streetcar service. You can tell all of those tracks are temporary.
local
Can you
business.
send that to me?
Yes, but I don't think we can use it. Oh,
But-
actually, it might be public domain because it's
Old
owned
as
by the
crap.
SFMTA.
Ooh,
I'll figure it out.
I think the public domain law usually just applies to U.S. federal government, but yeah, Alex can figure it out.
Okay.
Yep.
But anyway, it's great, right? And so they do all those crazy gymnastics. They build like trestles and all sorts of weird infrastructure and bridges for their buses to go over and like all this crap, right?
Yeah.
Also, they created a shell corporation to issue bonds for them to buy modern buses because they had another bond measure rejected, so they just sort of did a corruption and bought 300 buses.
Even when they're
Good.
not supposed to.
Good corruption.
Good corruption.
I imagine that was another like 57-43.
Well, it passed. They got buses, right? It didn't?
What passed?
The 300 new buses corruption bond measure from the Shell
It
Corporation?
wasn't a bond measure. They
Yeah,
just
the bond-
created a shell
yeah.
corporation to issue bonds for
Private
them.
bonds?
Private bonds. And it was called the San Francisco Municipal Railway Development Group Incorporated or
So they ain't
something.
got to pass nothing?
Okay, can we get a shell corporation for our
UTA?
transit needs?
Yeah, can we do massive amounts
The
of
Utah
corruption?
Transit
to-
Authority Development Agency Commission Incorporated.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you make bonds, they'll get bought, like, immediately.
So,
I think we should do this.
anyway,
Call it a public-private partnership or whatever you like.
they kept having massive operational issues
Understandable.
because of a lack of funding in the 70s, because Muni, at this point in the year of our Lord, 1970, still relies exclusively off fares for funding.
That's
In
impressive,
1970, just
honestly.
fair.
Yeah, and they're basically bus and streetcar only at this point, right? So they're not like a super...
Literal shoestring.
so shoestring.
Half a shoestring.
And then the cable cars collapsed in 1979 because they hadn't been maintained in 40 years.
Awkward.
Awkward.
Mhm.
There was a huge, following this, there was a huge rebuilding project where they redid
Yeah, they
all
shut
the
the
cable
whole
car.
thing down in 82. And
They dug up and redid like all of the cable car guideways. New
Mhm.
concrete, new rebar, new channels, new cables.
so the cable
Jeez.
cars you ride on today are,
Essentially a replica.
the same era as like the Portland Max.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not terrible, though.
No.
'Cause
It's
They
cool.
would have had to do it eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
So.
And also, this like collapse thing is what made the cable cars so expensive because previously they were the same fare,
Yeah.
right? But then after this, they're like, oh shit, these things actually cost a lot to maintain because they're weird.
And we also haven't been maintaining them for 40 years.
Right,
Which
and
makes them
so,
cheap. Briefly.
Now, ever since, tickets have been like somewhere between 2 and 4 times higher than a regular Muni ticket.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable.
and
No,
nowadays they just
And
feed off tourists.
It is, big tourist.
It is mostly a tourist thing now. We saw when we were riding at several like locals using it, but it was mostly tourists.
There's a picture of me when I was like 8 with a flat cap on riding the streetcar. I'll have to find that.
Aw.
That's public domain.
But, despite its struggles in the 80s, in the 70s, Muni entered the 80s as one of the strongest public transportation agencies in the country, with higher ridership per capita than any other city in the country, with one obvious exception.
New York.
It's always New York.
It's
Yeah.
always New York.
Like, you
The
know,
city.
it's just not possible to compete with New York. in
Can't
this
city as
country.
hard as New York.
Well, you'd have to build literally 20 subway lines.
And also an island.
And also an island. And not to mention, like, you know, 10 electrified regional rail
Yeah.
lines and 20 non-electrified regional rail lines.
I-
And
I
the
don't think
entire
New York
solid
would be
corridor.
quite New York if it wasn't on the island.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly,
Chicago.
Notably not New York.
yeah, not an island.
But maybe the only place that really comes close.
Yeah, fair.
America's second
That's
city,
fair.
right? Yeah.
I would say. LA, you suck. You're like America's 5th city. Screw you.
Behind Salt Lake.
I would say, in
Well-
my ranking of America's cities, New York, Chicago, San Francisco,
Salt Lake. Sorry, I mean just city.
Philadelphia,
Because the lake's going away.
Boston, Cleveland, LA.
Lake's up 2 feet this winter.
From the
That'll save us for exactly 1 year.
the legislature sure prayed for snow. Here we go.
Yeah, I know. I'm
That will
pissed
solve
about
our
that.
problem.
Now they have to like follow through and have like
Which they won't do because the
and
prayer
like
worked.
make use of the snow.
Yes.
Which, for more development, more spool.
Sure.
Yeah.
But finally, after 5 years of delays, regular service on the Muni Metro began in 1980. First with only one line, the N Judah, with the other lines added later in the year.
So is this still with the Boeing?
Yeah, these are the Boeing trains. The
Okay.
Boeing trains are the first ones to go
So-
into service. Are you,
Boeing.
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 if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going.
Please don't say that about trains.
But, you know, the subway was immediately, as predicted, plagued with operational issues.
Because it's made of Boeing trains.
Well, that and you're putting 5 mixed traffic streetcar lines into a subway.
And they just
and
show
trying
up
to
whenever
make
the hell
rapid
they
transit
want.
service out of it, yeah. So originally they were running 1-car trains on all the street running sections and then trying to couple them at like all the portals and stuff to
Oh,
make like
no.
2-car trains for the subway.
That's
Or
terrible.
4-car trains for the subway. It was terrible.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It was, and then they stopped doing that
Good.
because they realized they couldn't make the meets work.
Yeah, this subway is the opposite of anything and everything you normally do with the subway. Because normally you don't interline.
Unless you're
and
Boston.
Unless you're Boston. Because normally you minimize interlining and normally you run on a tight schedule.
Yeah. Some of these issues were later ameliorated when they extended the tail tracks near Embarcadero Station further south and did the extension of the N Judah to Caltrain Depot. Because one of the big issues was trying to turn trains around.
At the end. Because there
you
was
have,
only
there's
just
like a
platform.
train every 2 minutes that's scheduled to go into the thing.
Yeah.
But when they're not actually showing up like that, then you start to get like queues of trains trying to turn around.
Which is
So,
very quickly turns into a
Yeah.
complete disaster.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It
and
was.
that'll just kind of fan out to the entire system. So,
But it seems like they have it pretty darn figured out today.
yes. And then, furthermore, those darn Boeing trains acted up throughout the 80s and 90s, leading to massive operations unreliability. By the middle of the 90s, Muni had developed a reputation for being unreliable and bad, leading community advocates to begin pushing for dedicated funding to help Muni thrive.
Instead of like trying to cancel Muni.
That's the kind of
That is good.
Yeah.
That's the kind of support we want.
they could easily go the other way and just say, "Oh, it sucks."
This is true. The F-Market streetcar was reintroduced in 1995, running initially from the Castro to the Ferry Building. It'd be extended to Fisherman's Wharf in 2000. The line was made possible because in all of these years that the streetcars had been in the subway, so from like 1980 until they started construction on rehabilitating the tracks on Market Street, they did a big streetcar festival every year where they just pulled out all the old PCCs and just
And
had
had
like
fun.
a parade of them around Market Street.
That's funny.
That's
So everyone was
awesome.
like, well, why don't we just make this a year-round thing?
Yeah.
And they did.
And here we are and people like it.
I did not like the F-Market, I'll be honest
said
with you. I
people
thought it
like
was
it.
stupid.
But
Why on...
it does not need to be a good transportation service for people to like it.
That is
Yeah.
true.
We waited for one for like a half hour and...
Okay, to be completely fair, you were using it wrong. You're supposed to use it to go to the wharf.
That's true.
So that's kind
And
of
we were trying to
that's-
go to...
This is a big skill issue.
That is true. It was kind of a skill issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we had the Muni meltdown, which is a fun thing.
Yeah. So That's when events compounded in 1998. Several delays and confusing changes, proof of payment fare, a new signaling system, led angry passengers to make a train operator lock himself in the cab and refuse to move for nearly an hour.
Aww.
So all the trains
That's
in
not
the
very
entire
nice.
Muni system are just stuck behind this guy who won't move the train.
That sounds
That's
like a
not
mental
very
health
nice.
crisis.
Well, I mean, everyone was yelling at him, so I get it.
I would...
Hey,
I'd
take it out on like Muni administration, not the poor operator.
But it turned out that the real issue was the signaling, and that was why everyone was mad at him, because they just installed new automated train control system that it turned out sucked.
What were they doing previously? Just looking and hoping?
Drive-by sight and block signaling, baby.
Oh god.
Wow.
Like us.
Yeah, but in the subway.
Well, yeah. That runs every 2 minutes.
Oh.
I don't see any problem.
Yeah, just axe the block signaling and you're good.
Exactly. So issues continued
Comically
for
large
weeks.
spring.
Trains were literally crawling. At one point, it was faster to walk than to take Muni trains, even in the metro sections.
Wow.
Like there was like a whole story in the San Francisco Chronicle where two like reporters raced each other from Embarcadero to like Civic Center or something.
Oh no,
And one walked. It took like a half hour, right?
Uh-huh.
The other guy took Muni, and it took like 40 minutes.
Wow.
So
Nowadays it's about 5.
yeah, about 5, 6, 7 units on
Yeah.
units.
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 Slightly longer than a standard minute.
Yeah, and they eventually fixed it, and they fixed the bad automated train control.
But put better automated train control.
They did.
Crazy.
And then this kind of showed how effed Muni was at the moment, and so it led to the successful passage of Measure E in 1999, which gave Muni a dedicated source of funding via sales tax.
That was not just
I'm
fares.
glad they passed something.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, almost like in the year
And
of
this
our
was like
Lord.
65%, so,
Ooh.
so it barely passed. That's what I'm saying.
It would have passed by a lot. Normal places.
Normal
All
places.
places. I mean, this is the year of our Lord 1999 with all the federal funding we throw at every other transportation project. Can't rely on fares anymore.
No, you can't. And then finally, in 1996, they started to replace the aging and always terrible Boeing
Get
trains
canceled, Boeing LRV division.
With-
Get canceled in real life.
with newer Breda LRVs. They did end up buying German trains,
Finally.
Good.
completing their replacement in 2001.
They had them for a long time then.
Are
About
those,
20 years.
are those the Siemens ones they have now?
No,
Oh, those are new.
those are new.
And also, those are
ones
actually
are
by America.
2017.
Ooh, that
So-
makes sense.
The older trains we rode in the Muni Metro. You might not have done that because you weren't on any of the lines that they don't put the new train.
No, I was on the new Chinese.
You were
Siemens
almost
ones.
exclusively on the T3rd and once the Enjuta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a little more Muni filming, so I kind of got on to some of the Breda trains.
Mm.
So
So,
Cool.
was the Boeing vehicles, were they sold to anyone?
scrapped,
Scrapped? Okay.
trashed. Like,
Good.
Muni operators probably spit in them on their way out.
You'd probably have to really hate someone to give them a Boeing.
Yeah. And there was no way to maintain them anymore anyway, so.
There was no way to maintain them when they originally got them.
Yeah. Did other cities buy them, or?
Boston.
Boston. That was the whole deal.
Oh yeah, because they went in.
And then everybody else immediately saw
It's
them
like,
and did not
nope.
buy them.
Good. Yeah. Wow. Go America.
Yeah.
Now we have whatever whack stuff Siemens made up in the ensuing decades,
That's right.
which does move. I'll give them that. It sure does move.
Moves better, yeah.
So Muni completed its first truly new light rail line, the T3rd, in 2006, bringing additional service to the southern reaches of the city.
What was the original T3rd alignment? Did it like end at Caltrain, or did it go? Did it keep going?
It went into the subway.
The Market Street subway.
Uh-huh. It followed the tracks that the Enjuta uses to get to Caltrain Depot into the Market Street subway. Does that make sense?
Wait, so what does the Central subway do then?
Makes it faster because
It's
the
direct.
section, it's first of all, yes, direct, and second of all,
Doesn't
the
have
section
street
that
running.
the Enjuta does, once it gets past Embarcadero, it's all street running.
Yeah.
It's like, modern median street running, but it's still
Fancy.
street running to Caltrain.
All right.
So-
All right.
So I take it the T3 was built because the federal government gave a bunch of money again?
I think most of Muni's lines have actually been built like by scrimping and saving.
Oh, good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know the funding sources for the T3 is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Cool. Poggers even.
Yeah. And then the early 2010s were another struggle period for Muni. Service cuts from budget shortfalls. Then they fixed that.
Cool. Good.
And,
Fixing stuff. Good.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the 2010s has actually been a really good decade for Muni in general. They've done a lot of things. They've done, they call it Muni Forward, right? And it's still ongoing. It started in 2015. So they did a bunch of rapid/BRT light lines that kind of...
I've seen.
Yeah.
I also heard about some COVID emergency bus lanes that got put in.
Yeah, and they started just putting in a lot of bus lanes in general.
It's a COVID emergency. We're going to put in bus lanes. It's an emergency. Sorry.
They bought new buses. They bought new trolley buses. They replaced the vast majority of their fleet. They did like a 90% fleet replacement recently.
Oh, I'll also note, we forgot to include this in the history, but Muni merged with the San Francisco Streets Division in...
A long time ago.
Somewhere in the 90s, I think.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So now they're coordinated, which is cool.
So in doing the 2010s and the 2000s and the Muni Forward, they also have the power of the Streets Division. So it's super easy for them to like put down new paint and change the wires.
They got new trains too.
Yeah.
Siemens 200s, which are the same that they use in Calgary, Edmonton, except these ones have the funny stairs that go down.
They're nice. The stairs are funny.
Have you seen the stairs
I
going
have
down?
not seen the stairs.
Oh, we'll have to show you a video of the stairs going down.
Because in the subway, they have the high platforms, and then on the
outer.
street, they're just on the street. So you gotta go up the stairs. So the stairs like go down, and then the stairs like go up. Here.
Okay, I'll have to see
search
that.
Yeah,
Muni
let me
stairs.
stick out your arm like this. That you're the floor of the train. These
Okay.
are the stairs.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite
Okay.
cool.
That sounds, yeah, that does sound
I
pretty
didn't
cool.
get a video of it. I was so stupid.
Oh, I never actually saw them physically moving. So maybe I wasn't filming hard enough.
Yeah. They were also the first agency in North America to implement all-door boarding
On a train?
on a bus.
Oh, on a bus. Yeah, that's true.
Good.
Most
Which is very
places
good.
don't like that because they want the operator to keep an eye on fares.
Yeah.
Muni probably had to because they just have so much bus ridership, but they don't know what to do with it.
It's crazy,
And
Alex. You have no clue.
Yeah.
Like an articulated trolley bus every 3 minutes, and they're all packed.
Really?
So it's this is what happens when you don't have a subway system in a city like this.
That
That's
still
Seattle
does
as well.
not sound like a bad problem to have, though.
Well, the only problem is they're really slow because there's so much traffic on San Francisco.
And there's so many stops.
So did they do the emergency COVID bus lanes because there were no cars, so they could kind of get
They
away
want
with
people.
it?
They wanted people. The quoted reason was they wanted people to be in buses for less time, so they would get less chance of catching COVID.
I like that. I like that excuse.
So
That's
It's a
good.
good excuse. This is a good excuse.
yes.
That's the kind of roundabout thinking I like.
And then more recently, the Van Ness BRT, which is just the most beautiful bus lane I have ever seen in my life.
It's the most well-designed bus lane I've ever seen.
It's beautiful.
They have side platforms.
Yeah, and they
Oh,
have,
yeah?
and
Whoa.
it's
And they use red
it's
concrete
great.
and everything.
It's great.
Yeah,
I am
they did-
very impressed.
And they have overhead trolley wires.
If most stupid BRT projects looked like that, I would be a lot more in favor of BRT.
Yeah, they did like a 2-mile long. I think the street reconstruction was a bit longer, but the bus lanes are 2 miles long. Huge street reconstruction, loads of utility work, repaving, changing all the poles,
Trolley
doing all the
buses,
sidewalks, changing all the crossings. All that costs a lot of money.
The
that
one
opened
I'm,
in 22.
Oh, that opened in 22?
Last year.
Yeah. The one I'm looking at has 2 really big, wide bike.
That's Market
That's
Street.
Market
Yeah,
Street.
so
That's-
it runs the trolley buses, normal
That's-
buses, and
That's
Street
Market
cars.
Street. Yeah,
That's
that's
Market
Market
Street,
Street.
though.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeez.
That-
Market
that's-
Street is nuts, dude.
Yeah.
You would love Market Street.
I can't believe they have actual good bike lanes.
Like, there's
well,
just like,
post evicting cars, Market Street is very nice.
especially
Sweet.
by Union Square, there's first of all a trillion pedestrians, a bazillion cyclists, like 40 trolley buses every 3 seconds. Then there's the streetcar, and if you walk any distance, you're suddenly at a metro stop.
I
Wow.
don't.
wild.
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't want to know what it was like before they evicted all the private automobiles.
It must have been
You remember the
the
Muni
one
drivers
intersection
are hilarious too, because there's this one intersection where all
on
these
4th
cars
Street, I think.
going,
It was a bridge feeder.
Yeah, that's a bridge feeder for the Bay Bridge. All
Okay.
these cars are going across, and they're just sitting in the middle of Market Street because they're
Every
jackasses.
single signal phase, they'll block the box as far as they can, and then the Muni drivers trying to
would
go to
just
Market Street.
lay on the horn and try and get as close as possible to them and just lay on the horn until they get out of the way.
Good.
It's-
That's the kind of driving
And
I
the
like.
streetcars too. I saw one of the F Market Street
With the
cars just
bells.
edge up right next to this car, this far away, and just ding ding ding.
And then it repeats at the next light cycle. Everybody clears out, blocks the box again, and then the drivers.
And all this time, there's just a trillion cyclists going behind you because the bus stops are floating. Yeah,
Well, some of them.
Wow.
every city needs a Market Street. It's wild, dude.
I'll also add that on this intersection that everyone's blocking the box on, the trolley bus that they run on it, the big bendy trolley bus, had a bus lane on the far side, so it would just squeeze around the drivers and then not block anything, and it was fine.
Jeez.
Even though they were running a bus every 2 seconds, and they were
Yeah.
bunched together.
No, it's wild. It's great.
Well, I love the street redesign they did here.
Yeah.
It looks
yeah.
really good.
And then the Central Subway, as previously discussed, opened in 2023, which improved north-south connectivity. The T-Third runs into that. It's phase 2 of 3 of the T-Third.
Oh my goodness. There should have only been 2 phases. The surface and
Should
the
have been
subway.
one phase. Just build the thing back when it was cheap.
Yeah. And
Hindsight.
It's 2020.
And here's the problem with
3.
Reagan is he made it so we can't build all things back in the day when it was cheap.
And then Muni has been widely cited as having COVID-19 recovery issues. I have not found that to be as true as people think it is.
Well, if you live there, you probably experience the ass end of the system more and see the cuts that happen on the ass end of the system.
Well,
we got the nice end
No,
of the
COVID
system.
recovery is in ridership.
Oh, okay.
But as far as I can tell, they're at 70% of pre-pandemic ridership right now,
That's
which
pretty
is
good.
fine.
You can't complain too
I
much
think that's about
that.
where we are as well. So
That's damn fine.
that's normal.
If you want more, run more
probably-
service.
Yeah. Unlike BART. Womp womp.
Well, BART, you need to run less knives.
What?
Less knives, more service equals more ridership.
That's
Easy
true.
enough?
Okay, yeah, that yeah.
No offense to BART, but we did talk to multiple people who at least knew, or I talked to multiple people. You only talked
Yeah.
to one person who knew people who had been assaulted at gunpoint on BART. So
This is kind of the metric of bad things happening. Like, did you or
Was it
someone you
BART?
know or someone they know have it happen to them? If so, then it's bad. For example, car crash deaths. For example, BART gunpoint robberies.
and we didn't have anything happen, but we weren't on BART very much. So
We're also the opposite of the demographic. Well, except
That's
for you,
true.
the opposite of the demographic that
gets
gets
crimed.
crimed.
yeah,
Yeah.
in general,
With a long H.
quite. And then there have been safety issues with Muni.
I
Mostly
saw all
waiting
the,
for stops is, I believe, the issue.
I also saw a lot of stickers that said, "Don't assault Muni drivers, or we will put you in jail."
Yeah,
A lot of those.
yeah. So there have been some safety issues for transit operators and for people waiting for buses mostly. Because, you remember that one spot we waited in the financial district that wasn't super great for the 30?
It kind of blurs together.
Well, anyway, we waited at
Yeah.
one spot in the financial district that wasn't super great. In terms of, people doing weird shit that would make most people feel unsafe.
We've all been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can understand where that's coming from, but I think that, with a proactive strategy that can be ameliorated. And also maybe, I don't know, put something where the glass that's been shattered out of the bus stop was. That would be nice.
Yeah.
A lot of their bus stops have just no glass in them because they've been shattered.
I don't think you should
Put
make
some-
them out of glass.
put some
That-
plexi.
That seems
Put
to
some
happen a
plexiglass.
lot of
Plexi on
times.
them, right.
I saw
Like,
that
that
when I
happens
was in
here.
Seattle. Yeah.
The people do not want to know how often UTA replaces glass at Ballpark and Jackson Euclid. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So
It's only because Pete was there.
yeah, Pete Buttigieg broke all the glass at Jackson Euclid. That was definitely Pete
Oh my
Buttigieg.
goodness.
Yeah.
I kept your Buttigieg hate and throwing shade segment in 2 episodes ago after some debate because, yeah, true facts.
Yeah. Don't ride for more than like 2 stops, man.
Ride to use it, not ride to like talk
Photo
to
op
men.
from Jackson Euclid.
Not
First of all, why would you hop on there? Why wouldn't you hop
Anywhere else.
Downtown?
City Center.
Yeah.
Lovely station. Not known for being slightly dangerous.
anywhere except Jackson Euclid. Even the other north
Ballpark.
Well,
is better.
ride the whole system while you're here, and then you can see why we should get more money.
Yeah.
Or
because
just
it's
ride
great
it.
or terrible.
Or just
Either way.
Either
give us more
way.
money.
Yeah, more money. Seriously.
Or just ride it to serve your basic transportation needs
Well,
while
he
you're
couldn't
here.
do that.
No. He's
because
not the
he's the
transportation
Secretary of Transportation.
Oh, no.
So he would get assassinated because people were assassinating the Secretary of Transportation.
I was
He's probably like 16th in line for president, if not like in the 50s.
He's so low,
I was reading.
and no one cares what he does.
Okay, I was reading a Reddit comment about somebody was hosting some fancy party or whatever, and then somebody rolls up in this like blacked out SUV with the security guards, and turns out it's the secretary of I forgot which department already. And then one of the people hosting the party told him, "Hey, you might be safer if you just show up in a regular car because people don't know who you are, and the blacked out SUV makes you look important and like a target."
So who wants to kidnap and or assassinate the Secretary of Transportation? That is like the most like bland job
And if
except
this
like
isn't-
housing and urban development.
And if this,
Well,
hey, you saw
housing,
the Netflix series about that one.
That wasn't originally a Netflix series.
housing and urban development is one step above the Secretary of Transportation in the line of succession.
Dude, if they're worried about him, give him some plainclothes security guards on the tracks. They can all sit in the booth together.
I get the Secretary of Energy, right? The man knows nuclear secrets. But this is the Secretary of Transportation. All he knows is highway and train.
And be scapegoat.
And I guess, our security procedures for the TSA, which everyone knows anyway.
See, I've never heard the names of the Secretary of Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, or Labor. I don't know these people.
Well,
Let's see.
Buttigieg only gets so much publicity,
going.
A, because we look at transportation news, and B, because
I've
gets
heard of her
scapegoated
because
for
she
lots
was
of
on
stuff.
the news.
He looks nice.
He does.
Didn't he run for president?
Yeah, and he almost won, sort of. Or the Democratic primary, sort of.
Well, anyway, Secretary of Transportation, he's 14th in the line of succession. He shouldn't worry too much because...
Why is the Secretary of Home... Oh, because it's in order of the department's establishment. Why... I feel like we should change that up because the Secretary of Homeland Security should definitely be above the Secretary of Transportation.
We're never going to make it this far down the list unless it's the Netflix series.
At least we have the Secretary of War at number 6.
Damn it, Kevin. You're messing up our blue streak here.
Anyways, so Muni's pretty cool. They run a good service. They are having massive cosmic issues, and not for those, maybe we'd have the Muni Metro.
Well, if not for Richard Nixon, we'd have the Muni Metro.
Okay, if not for those, we'd have the modern, slightly overpriced, slightly worse Muni Metro.
That is true. Okay, and then don't stop recording yet because I have one announcement to make, and this needs to go on the episode you release on Monday. On Sunday, April 23rd, I will be riding from Salt Lake City to Provo and then taking Amtrak back up.
Nerd.
If anyone who is a subscriber would like to do it, please feel free to DM us on Twitter or in the Patreon Discord. And I will get you set up and we'll figure out bike storage and alternative plans and all that. Okay? Goodbye.
Cool.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube and to leave us a rating on iTunes and Spotify. If you like what we do here, you can become a patron member where you will get exclusive episodes every month, early access to all of our episodes, as well as fringe benefits such as stickers. Speaking of patrons, our patrons are at $69.69 per month, Frontrunner, double-tracked, Hyperloop thing, Zach Adams. At regular Frontrunner, $10 a month, we have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, Phobos2390.
And at $5 a month, our Red Line tier, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ High Will Watkins.
Hi, Will.
Hi, Will.
Jacob White Cotton, reluctant LA resident, and Robert P. Walsh, and Scott Harris. So
Did it
a lot
expand
of you
again?
guys. Yeah, because DJ High Will
Oh,
Watkins.
DJ High Will Watkins is now.
And Scott Harris both came up.
Cool.
So
And then at Blue Line tier, $3 a month.
Good luck.
Hauling as usual. We have Just Cuz, Alex Stykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Elijah Kensler, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Gonza12,
Wait, is-
Jack Dean, John Heron Gorman, Martine Hecker Martinez, Old Trolley, Patrick Salas, Schuyler Hall, and Seth.
Is that Evelyn that we know? Hi, Evelyn.
we just sent Evelyn stickers.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll send her
I-
more stickers.
I don't know
'cause
Evelyn.
We know her. Yeah, that's
That
because
was
you didn't
from
go
the
on the
Provo to
Provo
Salt
ride.
Lake bike raid.
Yep.
Yeah, when are we
maybe next
reading
time.
part 2, Salt Lake to Ogden?
Week after next, I'm doing a ride to Provo again.
Oh yeah, have fun. I may or may not join, we'll see.
I might. We'll see if I'm in Logan.
Not this Sunday, but the Sunday after.
Yeah, no, but next Twitter activity will be Salt Lake to Ogden. It's just hard to do it on
Ogden
a
to
Sunday.
Salt Lake, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Well, the red line's giving you a run for your money
Because
on the blue
it's-
line.
Because if we do it on most days, it's much easier. You can get from Salt Lake to places a lot later than you can get from places to Salt Lake.
True fact.
Especially on Fridays and Saturdays when you can take a train from... Oh, wait, no, that's not true. It's the opposite on Fridays and Saturdays, actually.
True fact. Stop
At
saying
11
false
o'clock.
facts.
Obama.